I'm Lindsay. Can you guys hear me? I'm Lindsay. I'm the CEO of a company called Wellthy, and I am going to talk to you about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is talking about caregivers. So the company that I built, Wellthy, is setting out to help 66 million Americans who take care of aging, chronically ill, and disabled loved ones. The healthcare industry calls us caregivers. I am one of those caregivers myself. I've been taking care of my mom for 26 years. My mom got diagnosed with a chronic condition when I was 9. She has multiple sclerosis, maybe it's familiar with MS. And it's been the single hardest thing that I've done in my life, which is taking care of my mom. And it was through the experience with my mom over many years that I started to meet more and more people going through the exact same thing that I was. And it was incredibly eye-opening to me to realize that my stress and struggles and frustrations weren't unique to me and in fact shared by so many others. And I'll share with you for this room, my background is not in healthcare, HR, not related to this group at all. I was in ad tech, so my last role was running marketing for a hot ad tech company. And I never told any of my employers. I worked for small companies and big companies. I've never gone to HR. I never told my managers I would take vacation days. I would make up excuses. I didn't feel comfortable sharing that I was going through this. So I'm here today to talk with all of you. I think that the caregiver topic is going to be the big next trend that everybody's talking about the last couple of years. The hot topic's been parental leave and parental benefits. The caregiver topic is ripe for discussion. I think it's a silent crisis, and there's an enormous impact on companies. So if you'll indulge me, I'll fill you in on some of the things that we're looking at and learning that are hopefully relevant and interesting to you. So the first point here is that I mentioned that 66 million Americans are taking care of aging, chronically ill, and disabled loved ones. That's 1/5 of our adult working population. So 1 in 5 adult workers in potentially your companies are dealing with some sort of care situation in a given year. It's a massive population, right? So we'll get into some of the squishier stuff, but there is a real economic impact that companies face when they have a caregiver. So take, for example, a 50,000 person organization, a large company. I know we're probably doing smaller companies in the room, but the AARP says 1 in 5. So that's 10,000 people who are taking care of loved ones. The AARP also says that a caregiver costs the company $2,000 per year in lost productivity. We think that number is really low, but just to roll with it, $2,000 lost productivity per person per year times 10,000 people is a $20 million liability. So we start talking to CFOs about this, and that's a very meaningful number for CFOs. So what does this look like? Why is there lost productivity? Well, it's these things. People are, so during the course of a work week, people are missing work or distracted at work. They're doing research for their loved one. They're sitting on hold with their insurance company. They're trying to get mom to or from an appointment. All of these things that take time away from work and ultimately lead to retention issues, absenteeism, etc. Is any of this interesting? I get very passionate about this stuff.
No, I'm right with you.
Oh, good. Just fill in the room. So, what might this look like? Let me give you kind of a real example. So, you're maybe in your 40s, 30s, you find out that dad had a stroke, lives across the country. First of all, you barely know what a stroke is. You start Googling what's a stroke, what does this mean? Is he going to be okay? The employee will have to get on a plane, probably fly home, sort out whether dad can still stay in his home, whether he's safe on his own, or needs to move into a more supportive living environment. So your employee, when he or she hears that dad had a stroke, comes with all of these big questions and things to figure out. So legal, financial, policy, in-home, medical, social, emotional. This is the way we look at the world at Wellthy, but this is also, these are the categories of things that employees are starting to think about. Then there's the family communication. Maybe there are siblings, aunts and uncles, whoever else is in the picture, and it's coordinating care with loved ones, figuring out who's going to fly out, who can help. It's an enormous time spent just dealing with the family communication. So I'm going to just talk through kind of 4 things that I think, so apart from the kind of economic story of how this impacts companies, I'm going to talk about 4 real sort of softer ways that this impacts companies. The first is that employees who are dealing with these caregiving situations are not as productive, they're not as present even when they are actually physically present in the office. They're distracted and dealing with these other family topics. There are oftentimes retention issues. We hear stories all the time of someone saying, well, I have to move home, I'm moving across the country to be closer to my parents, are getting older, and I need to be there for them. So that company that paid to invest in that talent over those years is now losing that employee. And then there's obviously impact to the bottom line, especially if this is a revenue-producing employee, right? So those are just basics. Those are things we probably all could already figure out about caregivers. But this is a softer point, and this is the point that companies are really, I mean, we just heard great presentations talking about some of the benefits that companies can provide to employees. And there are things like gym memberships, and maybe joint meeting, I don't know, you would know that. But all of these nice to haves, unfortunately, fall by the wayside when you're dealing with these more serious, complex care situations. So your employees are not even taking advantage of these great benefits that you're offering. They can't, they're so distracted. And so this is just something to keep in mind when thinking about these employees. This is what I started off by saying, just the sheer kind of macro trends that we're seeing in this country mean that we will have a larger constituent group of caregivers than our country's ever experienced before in our history. That's because, sorry, what's encouraging? If baby boomers are aging, they're living longer than they've ever lived before with more chronic conditions than they've ever had before. This is the first generation in history that families all live apart from one another, which makes caregiving that much more difficult when you're doing it from afar. And then the final thing is that the healthcare system, especially elder care and chronic care, is more complex than it's ever been before. So I see this as a perfect storm that leads to just tremendous stress and complexity on the part of these caregiver employees. My final point here, I'll tell a quick story. The final point here is your caregivers in your organizations are your stars. And let me explain. I'll share a story. So we're actually, the company Wellthy is, so one of our investors first is it gives us office space, and hers is also a corporate partner of ours. So there's an employee on our floor, she came over to us with tears in her eyes. She said, she opened up this zip pouch, and she said, this is my mom. And in it, she had folded pieces of paper. And she manages care for her mom. She had tears in her eyes, and she said, I don't have a life, I don't have time for myself, I don't do anything else, I just work and take care of my mom. And so later on, so we started working with her, and she's now one of ours, but later on we noticed she was always the first one. She's on our floor, we're based in the truck. We noticed she's always the first one there in the morning, and she's always the last person to leave at night. She's the hardest working employee that First has. And the realization that I had in watching her was that caregiving is sort of this incredibly selfless act. So unlike becoming a parent, most people choose to become a parent. When you become a caregiver, you don't choose, you're sort of put into that role. And many people, have family dynamics where they don't get that involved in their parents or a loved one, sibling, spouse, is dealing with a chronic condition, and they don't get involved. But if a caregiver gets involved, it's because they care. They care about their loved ones, they care about their work, they care about their company, and those are the people that companies want to retain. And I feel very strongly about this. I think I'm almost done with my presentation. I can tell stories if you guys are interested, what these people look like. Story. I don't know if you guys care. But that's it. Hopefully that was interesting. Any questions?
Oh, what do you do?
I was purposely not trying to make this a pitch, so I didn't want to make it too pushy. But yeah, so Wellthy is, we're effectively a chronic and elder care concierge. So we work with caregivers, and we have a two-part solution. The first part is that we have a network of care coordinators. So these are social workers by background. They're warm, empathetic, customer service driven, more importantly, they're incredibly skilled and knowledgeable about managing chronic and elder care. So they're working with families to do everything from source event info needs, recommend long-term care options, find providers, schedule appointments, arrange transportation, refill prescriptions, see test and negotiate insurance bills. And so the experience that families have is when dad has a stroke and you're like, I don't know where to start, we step in and we say, here are the things we need to think about. We start with legal considerations and financial considerations, income safety. We have the ability to navigate it. The second part of the way that we work is with a technology platform. Basically, it looks a lot like project management software. So for the care coordinator works with family, you create a care plan, it's proactive, it's prioritized, takes the burden off the family, multi-stakeholder communication, so multiple siblings from across the country can all participate in the care project. Privately secure encrypted document storage for things like legal documents, medical records, prescription information. So the experience for families is just this enormous sense of relief that they have a partner who's basically taking the burden on them. That was my pitch.
I have a couple of different, but the end with how the engine is, we end with superstar, rock stars. Why are we so afraid to share that you are preparing yourself if you do not think of them as superstars?
Yeah, it's funny. I just did an interview for a magazine and they dug into this. They were like, why didn't you ever tell anyone? And I think that there are really interesting societal stigmas around this topic. Maybe, I think so. I mean, now I share the story with strangers all day long, but I think for a long time I was concerned about judgment or feeling embarrassed in some way, ashamed. And if anybody dug into it, I mean, I lived in my 20s, I lived at home with my mom, got her up in the morning, went into the office, came home in the middle of the day, got her out on the toilet. And it was very personal, right? Like, physically taking care of her almost as her nerves in a very intimate way. And I was young to go through that, I was in my 20s, but there's this shift that happens. It's just like human nature shift that we all will go through a period of time where we go from being our parents' children to our parents' parent, and taking them in. And it's just awkward and nobody tells you how to do it. When you're becoming a parent, you can parent to us, we talk about it, and the physical, if you're willing. No, there's not a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of societal dialogue about caregiving and means and how to do it. I don't know, I think it's a shame, and I don't think we know how to talk about it. But I'm glad you asked the question because I just feel so strongly that it is an opportunity, I think, for HR leaders and executives and companies to have more open dialogue about this topic and make employees feel like they can share data extra if they need to fly home, to allow their team members and their managers to be there for them. I think will help everyone.
I basically what my mom dealt with this with my grandfather, so I totally understand. What is your relationship look like with, is your relationship with employers or is it like yours with employees?
Yeah, so for the business, so Wellthy started direct-to-consumer private pay, working directly with families. We've evolved to working with companies. Some organically, a couple of our early clients worked in HR and they were like, you've changed my life, you've made me more productive. I would buy this for my people. Would you sell this to us? So we started working with companies recently this year and other interesting partners. So we're recognizing with the NFL to help retire players. Same problem that we face as families, these players face in a much more pronounced way with higher incidence rates of Parkinson's and dementia Alzheimer's. But yeah, so we some companies want to have a cost PPM, sort standard benefits, some more modern companies or tech companies have said, we'll cover the cost of your service on a per utilization basis, meaning when our people are going through this, we want them to have this support, but we don't want to just have it for everyone and not have it be used. And we're flat from it as a company more flexible and happy to do that.
On the financial advisor, and I understand that what you're talking about because I currently am a provider for the caretaker for my parents, but my labels are still self-sufficient, so I don't have to be all over them. They can still provide for themselves the things they need to do. Are you only servicing or looking into more the tech space or other demographics? I work in financial services. I came from even like the social service, like people with developmental disabilities.
Yes.
And others with that, where in the nonprofit organizations that serve them, these people can relate more. They can definitely identify with that because they work, they see the front lines, and they see every day what the struggles is in servicing these people. And I just want to know, are you in that space as well, talking to me? Because there's a million nonprofits that service people with disabilities, and I don't know if they're getting that type of information.
So it's a great question, and yeah, so we started the business focused, my blinders were like aging parents, big problem. And we started having parents of children with chronic conditions come to us and say, I need so much help. Like the scheduling of, for autism, scheduling of appointments with therapists is a nightmare. And we realized we can service families with sick children just as well as we can service adult. And then we also similarly started having people come to us and say, my sister is, dealing with schizophrenia in and out of the hospital. The parents are pregnant, they're getting older, and the siblings are all trying to figure it out. And we all both have our own families and full-time jobs. So we've naturally gotten into everything, and it's all the same problem. It's just a logistical and administrative headaches for families. So we do it all. In terms of partnerships with nonprofits, we've had a couple of nonprofits come to us. We're sort of starting that through the MS Society, Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and those are the two nonprofits that we're actively tied to, and then I think we'll structure a partnership with it. But yeah, it's a big opportunity there. But it's just a wide open space, enormous need. Lots of people, and
I'm just saying more of it. I'm thinking for the tech space. It's tough for the young adults to identify with that versus nonprofit in that space where they see day to day.
Every day, you're right.
So their employees have a great grasp. I'm sure they don't want to see their parents, or like I don't know if you've ever seen a Medicaid hospital. It's like a walking dead.
Oh, totally.
So I don't know if
Medicaid
versus
Medicaid.
It's really related more to those versus the tech because you got young professionals 30, they're not preparing for that.
Totally.
Some of them I don't care, but yes. But the same, that's where I see the first man. I used to work in Medicaid. It's like the worst. It's like the walking dead. It's like there's stash there and you forgot about it.
Yeah. Super interesting. I appreciate that. It's a good suggestion.
Just from a lawyer perspective, from the HR perspective, how you would present it to your boss and maybe to our clients, so rather than going in LA, come on, blah, blah, you're providing this service to them, so they're not distracted by like nothing. That is a cost saving.
That's right. I'm not personally a huge fan of FMLA. Just my personal opinion that I think most people don't need to hand off to deal with this stuff. They need somebody else to just like handle it for them. That's what I thought my
Right. LA is
right.
But basically, you take the burden away with your service.
Then they're actually doing work. They're actually getting relief, and there's a fascinating sort of loyalty shift that happens too. Like when your employer helps you with this like really serious, big, scary burden, you feel this tremendous sense of relief and loyalty
No, you did. I just want to make sure, like, if I wanted to present this to
Yeah.
the company to my boss, it would be like, this would be the benefit, this is the benefit for the company, and that maybe.
That's right. That's right. It's an employee benefit. It's oftentimes thought of in the same, the big companies that we're working with, some of them have EAPs and have said, can you work with our EAP? So, that's sort of the entry point. So there are different ways that we work with companies, just depends on their structure and who they are.
Look at other companies like
Totally.
Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you.